Good, good. Yeah, I see you're selling your ego off there. It's a few minutes left.
Not a few minutes left.
Yeah, a few hours.
It's today. It will be tonight. It'll
Someone's
be
gonna get a
tonight.
good deal. Um, all right. So, what are we gonna talk about today? All right. So we have we've talked about the Wi-Fi 6E access points in stock. Um, now
Yeah, the ECW three
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 three six.
six
Yeah, and I've been using it.
advanced
It's working great. But you need to.
tri-band operates on 2.4, 5 gigahertz,
Yep.
6 gigahertz.
Yep.
Yep.
So there's no downside to using it. It'll support every Wi-Fi client that's ever come out since 11B,
Yeah.
and then it also supports a 6 gigahertz band. But the only thing is, you need to take advantage of that 6 gigahertz and all that empty free spectrum with no interference. You need to have a computer or device that's compatible, right? That
Yeah.
supports 6 gigahertz. So Netgear is announcing a USB Wi-Fi 6E adapter. It's not quite available yet, but it looks like it's gonna start shipping soon. But so you'll be able to use that with your laptop, let's say in the office, or with a desktop if you're still using
Even a
them.
desktop. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking. We don't know how many people are still using desktops after the pandemic. Like, I bet everyone got issued a laptop. They went home
Yeah.
for remote working, and they probably like trashed all the desktops. I don't know how many offices are still using desktops, but you can use this with any. It looks like USB 2 or 3 device. I got a picture of it here. I'll
You
put
know what
that
chip
up.
they're using on there?
I'm not sure. Let's see. I'm looking.
Probably Intel,
I just
right?
threw the specs up there. It says supports Windows 10 and 11. That's interesting. So maybe their driver somehow patches Windows 10 to use 6E, or maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe they're doing it all in hardware. I don't know.
Well, it probably doesn't matter. Well, no, because it's the USB that's communicating on 6 gigahertz. It's not the.
Yeah, but it is. But the OS still has to support it. It still has to show
Yeah.
up in the tray. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
I
gotcha.
think
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
they
yeah.
could probably patch it through a driver. Or we've heard that you don't need to do the registry hack anymore, but I had to when I installed it in my laptop. Right?
Yeah, I guess there are some people that were able to do it and some people that weren't able to do it. I don't quite. I just went to 11. I said, forget it.
Yeah. I mean, my laptop's at 11. My desktop's still at 10.
Yeah.
Because
Oh, then you should be able to test it I mean, if
I
you're.
should, yeah. Well, I've done the registry hack too, so because I've got a Wi-Fi 6E M.2 card in my desktop also, so
Oh, okay.
both desktop and laptop are on 6E. So yeah, this is an easy way to do it though, without any kind of hacking. Just like plug it in, and I think that's great.
Yeah, you're utilizing 6 gigahertz. The speeds are going to be a lot faster. You know, if it do, is it in if it's in a desktop, you typically don't have to worry about the roaming of it.
Yeah,
You do have to worry about how close it is to the access point. Um, but yeah, you should get mega speeds. Is it? Do you know if it's a 2x2? It's probably
it
two by
looks like it's
two.
it looks like it's 2x2. Like they're all using
Yeah.
2x2. So the other thing is with the USB adapter, and a desktop, you can place it away from the case. Um, it doesn't it has better line of sight to the access point.
Yeah.
That we used to sell tons of USB adapters, and that's like one of the advantages for a desktop. You can kind of put it where it's going to have a better line of sight to the AP instead of having the antennas stick out the back of the case and still kind of
Yeah.
be blocked.
Yeah.
Um,
Remember we used to run into that a lot.
yeah, yeah. So that's good. So that means like if you have an office and you want to take advantage of Wi-Fi 6E right now, you can just go ahead and use those adapters. And if it's like a mission critical type application where you don't want to have any Wi-Fi interference, you can use these ECW 336s right now.
Now, did they give you a price? Is there a price?
No, but I'm sure
Announcement?
it's under $100. I mean,
I hope so. Yeah.
so that's cool. All right, so speaking of Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E, you wanted to talk about Wi-Fi 5. You said something.
Yeah, I mean, that's different than Wi-Fi 6E. But before we stop talking about Wi-Fi 6E, the other advantage, as always,
Hmm.
is meshing on Wi-Fi 6E.
Yeah.
So if you don't have client devices and that support Wi-Fi 6E, for example, which is typically the case, and you're deploying Wi-Fi, you're actually future proofing, right? So You can put in the Wi-Fi 6E devices. You can backhaul or mesh on 6E, and then as the network client devices update to Wi-Fi 6E, then you can transition to Wi-Fi 6E as an access point, right?
Sure, yeah. You
Yeah.
could use it. I mean, still don't really recommend meshing too much, but if you wanted to do it, have you guys done? You've done testing and seen like really high rates between
Yeah,
APs, right?
gigabit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
gigabit speeds
because
on mesh.
on our access point, it's a 4x4 going
Yeah,
to another 4x4. So we've seen some pretty fast speeds there.
yeah. So even if you lose half of that, you're still like over a gigabit of speed.
Yeah.
You lose half on meshing.
Half, I don't, yeah, I would, it's going to depend on the environment and stuff,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
mean, yeah, at
it
closer distance, you still have to be like, the APs have to be maybe 30 feet apart or something, maybe.
it's way, way faster than meshing on 5 gigahertz or 2.4
Right,
gigahertz.
right. With
Way faster.
interference and all this going on those bands. But yeah, that's another reason to use the 336 if you want to do meshing. That's
Yeah.
probably the one to do it on.
Yeah, okay, so now to the topic of Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 5. I
Yeah,
cannot believe we still have customers that buy Wi-Fi 5. They should be using Wi-Fi 6. Do you agree or
I
disagree?
agree. I don't think we really have any as far as like Keenan systems. We don't really have any Wi-Fi 5 APs that we sell anymore. I mean, a couple outdoor maybe.
Well, there's the ECW 120, ECW 160, which
Oh
typically,
right, yeah, of course. So those two, yeah. I know you love those two. So yeah, we do actually sell quite a few of the 120s. Not so much 160s. Everyone transitioned to the 260 Wi-Fi 6E.
yeah, that makes sense to do that.
But we do have some stubborn customers still buying the 120s, which, I mean, if that's your price point, it's a good price point. But I wouldn't do it on a fresh network.
Yeah, why I just don't understand why going into a new facilities and you're going to put in Wi-Fi 5 unless you have the intent to come back a year, six
Yeah,
months later, hey, you need an update.
right, right.
I mean, I don't understand the
Well,
even pricing. If it's a budget thing, I still don't get it.
they're gonna
And
see. Go ahead.
no, the argument of client devices not being supported is just like that's ridiculous, I think.
Yeah, I mean they'll see significantly, slower speeds on Wi-Fi 5, right? So, if they
And
have
the
a
number
gig,
of clients that you can
yeah,
support too.
and if the hotel or whatever school whatever has like over a gigabit connection, and then they're putting in Wi-Fi 5, they're only gonna see like, maybe a few hundred meg of that, right? Whereas Wi-Fi
Yeah,
6, they're gonna see like 700 meg of
yeah,
throughput, right? And
yeah, yeah.
6E they'll see a
Like in a
gigabit.
residential case, I wouldn't say that in a business case, but
Yeah,
yeah, you're going to
yeah,
see substantially faster speeds,
right.
more client support. It's just a better overall performance.
And
Um,
when someone pays for a new Wi-Fi network, and they also are paying for a certain speed internet connection, if you put that in and then they're doing speed tests and they're only getting like a fraction of what they're paying for, right? They're going to complain, right? And that's a reason right there not to use Wi-Fi 5.
yeah, I mean that's a few hours on the phone
Yeah.
over a couple days.
Mm-hmm.
I
Sure.
ran
So
speedtest.com. It's not working.
they're definitely going to do that once they pay for that new system. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely use Wi-Fi 6 and ECW 230 4x4 for sure,
Yeah, heck yeah.
minimum. All right, so we had a customer with some port-based VLAN questions this week. So we kind of helped him out, and I set it up here. And so a lot of times when you set up VLANs, you'll do tagging on the ports, and then you'll set the VLAN ID and the Wi-Fi SSID, right? So you could have 3 VLANs and have 3 different SSIDs, one on each of those VLANs, right? Just by
Yep,
tagging the ports on all the uplinks and on the EP ports, right?
yep, that's right.
Um, but there's another way you can do it. You could also untag the port. So if you untag and then set, let's say on VLAN 2, and then set the PVID to VLAN 2, and then plug an access point to that port, it's going to get all of its management traffic and user traffic is going to go over that VLAN without setting a VLAN in the SSID.
Yeah, that's right.
And
And this case was, would you say it was like an MDU kind of setup? Is that what it was? It was like a business
it was
center
kind of
or
like
something.
let's say a shopping mall that had like 3 different businesses,
Oh, okay.
and they wanted to have each one of those businesses totally separate. They didn't even want to have the management traffic going over the same network, right?
Oh, okay.
So
So it's all different.
by untagging that port, there's no possible way of them getting on someone else's VLAN,
Right.
right? They're only going to go. They can't just go in there and set their VLAN ID and like, oh, all of a sudden they're on somebody else's network, right?
Yep. Now, did that install go in, or did it?
I don't. Yeah, it did. I think they were just setting up the switches, and I think in this case they were using it as a wired network, so they weren't even having any access points at this point. But they wanted to make sure that those different businesses only had access to their own VLAN. So so that's an instance where you'd want to untag and set the PVID.
Yeah, that's smart.
So
For sure.
That's another way to do it. I set my access point up here on a separate VLAN. I set the untag the port plugged in, and it's getting its like local IP address from that subnet, and then all the traffic's going over that VLAN also. So
Yeah, everything through that port, right?
yeah. So that's definitely a way to do it. All right, so on to the gateway. So you had a webinar this week on the ESG510. Yeah. And you got a lot of questions. A lot of questions, right?
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
In fact, they didn't read all the questions out to me. I think because we're locked in at an hour, we can't go over an hour, so I think we were creeping up on the hour, so I don't think we could dive into all the questions. But regardless, yeah, we had a ton of really, really good questions, but some of those you're going to bring up.
Yeah, so I was on the webinar, I was looking at the questions coming through, there's like a bunch of them. But a lot of people were asking questions about the VPN functionality, and like one person asked like, oh, will Ingenious make their own VPN client?
Yeah.
But you don't need to, because you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to have like a separate VPN client unless that's your business, right? So basically all devices are going to support IPsec VPN, which the gateway does, right?
Yeah.
And
any client device, client software that has IPsec should work with our VPN.
Right. And
our gateway.
So like VPN. Windows 10, Windows 11, iOS, Mac OS, Android also, yeah. So they all have an IPsec VPN client that's going to work with your gateway. So and your guys have been testing it already. He was talking about it. He had it working already. Yeah,
we tested it on multiple clients already, and it works. It works really well. We're doing site to site. We're testing site to site and site to client. So that's been working really well. But any client software that supports that should work. It should be fine.
Yeah, I mean there are third parties
that
so like larger companies may want to roll out their own VPN client, and that supports IPsec, and they can just configure it for the gateway too.
Yep.
But then also the gateway can do site-to-site VPN too. That's kind of one of the cool features of it. So if you have multiple branches, like if you're like little insurance company branches or whatever, you can put one of these gateways in every branch and just connect them all to your own like intranet.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit cloud. So like in our cloud system, you have organizations. And that's basically you as a company or your customer. And then you can have as many networks as you want. You can have, and those branches could be separate networks.
Yeah.
And you could have the gateway on each of those networks. And you could easily VPN all of them together, like in a mesh setup or a hub and spoke setup. But it's very easy to do. Like when you do a site-to-site VPN with just our equipment, we made it as easy as possible in the cloud. It's several clicks and you're pretty much done. You can do it to a third party like gateway, but then you have to put all the parameters in for that setup.
So like you're talking like a larger business. They could use like an ESG510 at all the branches, and then they could have one of the upcoming larger ones like at the main branch where all the traffic's going to actually get firewalled and go out to the internet, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, you could do that as well. Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, we can't wait to. You'll be getting beta samples really soon on those, right?
I will be shipping betas to you next week.
All right, sounds good.
That's the plan.
All right, Brian. Anything else this week?
No, check out eBay for
Check out EV. I'm gonna put the link.
VW
If anyone wants an EV, stop. Why pay for gas anymore? You know, save hundreds of dollars a month.
Yeah.
Buy Brian's EV, and don't wait like a year for them. They're all back ordered.
A year or 2 years,
Yeah, man.
whatever the time frame is now.
All right, remember to like and subscribe, and put your questions in the comments. We'll be back next week.